here with me to chat about all the big stories. As usual on Wednesday, it's Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, a lot of these stories are right up your strata as a former Home Office advisor, aren't they? Let's get straight to them. Obviously, charges haven't been brought yet, but arrests have been made regarding the driver of the... again, it's so difficult. People keep saying they don't like the word collision, but there are legal technicalities. His car allegedly ploughed into people. 65 people injured. There are still children, adults in hospital in what's been described as a rampage. We now know that the police believe that he was high on drugs at the time. There have been some reports that he'd left a bar and he was drunk. Big question marks about how he was able to gain access to these roads. Now, an awful lot of people who were at the parade on Monday night are saying, well, look, lots of the streets were empty. It wasn't really straight. Police say, no, he didn't break through a cordon. He followed an ambulance through, which was being called to someone in the crowds, and just took his vehicle through. Maybe the emergency services just thought, oh, he's with the ambulance. I mean, who knows? But there are still a lot of concerns over both the policing allowing a vehicle with so many crowds, but also the fact that somebody who was allegedly, high on drugs, is one of the charges against him, was able to do this.
Normally with a big parade like this, the policing effort is so contained. Streets are shut off for hours on end, from early in the morning till late in the evening. So I think that there are an awful lot of questions that need to be asked as to how a vehicle could indeed follow an ambulance. When you look at things like the London Marathon, you can't get a car anywhere near to the barriers in the first place. I know I used to live along the route many years ago when I lived in London. You couldn't get a car anywhere near it. So I think that needs to be questioned as to why was the car there in the first place? How could he get in it and drive? What happened when he went through the barriers following the ambulance? Did nobody think, hold up a second, what's that normal looking car following? It's not a police car, it's not got lights on it. What's going on? Nobody stopped it. So I think there are a lot of questions for the police. Obviously, there will always be the potential, for instance, to happen when, if this is as suspected, there are drinks or drugs involved. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the thing is, I think a lot of us, first sight when we saw what happened, we saw when you see the videos, your first thought, and again, not because people are racist or Islamophobic, for goodness sake. It looked like modus operandi of an Islamist extremist terrorist attack, because there have been lots of them across Europe and including the UK. And it appeared that the car was being driven deliberately at people. And none of that kind of tallies with someone who apparently was on drugs. I think this is the stuff that people don't get. And I think that's why so many mad rumours are still on the internet. And I think that is still an issue, because it doesn't quite make sense. And because no one trusts what the police say anymore. And they don't trust what the police say anymore because we've been lied to before. Not just a lack of information, but also at the time, but also then, no, definitely not a terror attack. It just happened, we know, within a day, because we searched his home, to have rice in and an Al-Qaeda terror manual in his home. But we're not going to charge him for that until October, until after the summer, because we don't trust you horrible, bigoted, stupid, massive, ordinary people, because we can't trust you with that information. I think it's understandable. I think, again, the authorities, the police, they've all created this situation that we don't really trust their version of events anymore.
We don't. And with the advent of social media, everybody's phone has a camera on them. Everybody is a citizen journalist. That's what they've turned into, and the information goes out there very, very quickly. And the police haven't quite understood that in order to protect the integrity of their operation, they need to actually start working in the real world here and start releasing out details a lot quicker.
Well, again, they say they're tied by the law, they're tied by...
There is some stuff they can do. There are information. And Sir Mark Rowley, the Met chief, has already been out on the media this morning saying that they need to change, and I think it's quite interesting for somebody like him saying that when the Met have been in the doldrums.
What do you make? I mean, I do want to talk. There's quite a lot of other stories involving the police and authorities on crime, but the former Metropolitan Police Superintendent Dal Babu, who is himself of Asian descent, he has told The Guardian that the decision to give the suspect's ethnicity, a 53-year-old white British man, he said he thinks the decision was correct. He says, the decision was correct to counter misinformation, but it could be exploited by the far right. We hear this all the time, do we not? He said, the decision was unprecedented. He said, but he could envisage pressure being applied to forces in future to release details on the racial background of suspects. He says, it doesn't take rocket science to predict what will happen. The far right will twist this and say, right, you've named the race because it's a white person. Why aren't you naming the race of the next person? And it will present some difficulties and challenges to the police. He said, in this case, it was correct to share the information to combat racist and Islamophobic misinformation on social media. People thinking it was an Islamist terrorist attack, because that's a typical modus operandi of Islamist terrorist attack, doesn't make someone Islamophobic. No. They're simply playing the odds. Yeah. We make assumptions. I mean, you know, if you're going to picture, if I told you, like, oh, you know, someone has sexually assaulted someone, you're going to picture a male assailant and a female victim, aren't you? Of course. Well, it may not have been. It may be a female assailant and a male victim. But it will be unlikely. But would that make you sexist? No, you're just... We, as human beings, we look at we play the odds. But he said, you can imagine a situation where the far right would say, oh, you haven't named the ethnicity of this person, and that's because they're a person of colour. Well, yeah. That is exactly what's going to happen. That is exactly what is going to happen.
But he doesn't give any indication as to what it is he would do. And the kind of thing, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. Whatever information they put out there, everybody's going to tear all over it, because we're on online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Everybody wants information. But why would you not put it out there? And I think that this is the whole point with policing these days. Why wouldn't you give the public the information actually
because
that
they don't trust
may well
us.
help?
Because they don't trust.
No, they don't. And they
again, if you can give full information every time. Again, the issue with Southport wasn't the information; it was the lack of information.
Yeah, you create that
exactly. Let's talk about the lack of information that we get about the prisoners who are being released in this country, released early. And we know it would have happened under the Tories. As well, even the prison releases last September, October, and the prison releases that have happened recently and are going to continue to happen because no one built enough prisons. And we've got more crime. We've got more crime because we put people in prison for long enough and they come out and commit crime. It's almost like it's circular. But 6 police chiefs have told the Prime Minister that his crime pledges are in peril, bearing in mind they were going to, slash crime in this area, slash drug taking, slash knife crime, slash whatever. But senior police chiefs representing, the Met Police, Sir Mark Rowley, the Merseyside Police, Serena Kennedy, Greater Manchester Police, West Midlands Police, West Yorkshire Police, and also the chair of the National Police Chiefs Council. They have all said that Keir Starmer's going to be unable to deliver his flagship pledges, including, tackling halving knife crime, rates of violence against women and girls, and recruiting 13,000 additional officers into neighbourhood policing. They're not going to be able to do that because police aren't getting their funding. And at the same time, we've also got plans to release prisoners early, risking public safety, according to, and this is the heads of Met Police again, MI5 and the National Crime Agency, simply saying releasing thousands of prisoners who've served as little as a third of their sentences, and that means they just cannot even begin to manage this offload of people, some actually potentially physically dangerous, onto our streets. This isn't rocket science, is it? We were all warning about this.
Imagine my surprise to be told that if you let a criminal out of prison early, they may well commit further crimes.
I'm as shocked as you are, Claire. I think we all are, aren't we, guys?
I thought they'd come out and be all sweetness and light. The problem is you don't have the backup in the street. So if you're going to release people early from a sentence, what are you going to do? You'll need to tag them so you know where they are.
They're going to be closely monitored, Claire, didn't you know?
I'm not sure by who. This is the problem. You don't have anyone to monitor them. You don't have enough electronic ankle tags. You don't have the people to monitor those to make sure they're not taking them off.
The probation officers, yeah.
The whole system falls down. You start letting criminals back out on the street, they're just going to go AWOL. They're going to carry out more crimes. And then are they going to end up back in prison again or not? Because that space has been given away to someone that's written some hurty words instead. So I'm not sure what the Labour Party think they're really doing.
But again, when you want to sort of protect the NHS funding and you increase defence funding and you've got all these other things you want to spend money on, you don't have enough money to put into police and criminal justice. And we've seen that the whole police and criminal justice system completely underfunded since 2010 as a result of those austerity measures, because the Home Office was one of the departments that got squeezed, so is the Department for Justice. And what a surprise, we have a breakdown of law and order. And again, I keep being told, oh no, all the surveys say and all the police reports suggest that we haven't got rising crime in most areas. I'm like, that is not what anyone, certainly in where I live in London, I know so many people, including myself, who've had something stolen from them. I mean, you know, Mike had his bag, his phone stolen. I had my my bag stolen. A very good friend of mine had his bike stolen. I know one other people who've had a watch stolen. I mean, I just happened. There hasn't been a rising crime. I just simply happen to know a load of people it's happened to in the last couple of years.
It makes you wonder who there is. Who are they asking in their little survey?
I know, exactly. Someone in a little village in Devon where, like, you know, there are 3 men and a dog. Lovely place to live, but probably low crime rate. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, in terms of, do we need to prioritise actually spending some money on you know, the crime and criminal justice system and on the police so we can actually prevent more crime? Is that a priority for you? And what would you cut in return, and what taxes would you raise to pay for it? Do give us a call on that, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk about cannabis though, because this is my question. I want to ask specifically about this, but you know, I don't know if you're up already. If you like cannabis, you're probably not going to be up till about 3 or 4, are you? At a nice late night? Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, but Sadiq has basically said he thinks that cannabis should not be criminal, possession of it. He said it should be decriminalised. So that's not the same as making it legalised. These are sort of nuances. You work in the Home Office, you'll be able to explain that to us. But he's had an independent London Drug Commission. It's headed by Lord Faulkner, the former Labour Justice Secretary, independent. He's recommended the possession of small amounts of natural cannabis, you know, for your own personal use, should no longer be a criminal offence. Dealing or producing the drug would remain illegal. He said that cannabis laws were disproportionate to the harms it can pose, particularly in the case of possession for personal use. And they've also got a lot of concern over the use of suspicion of cannabis possession, allowing police to stop and search young people. In particular, the report says the law with respect to cannabis possession is experienced disproportionately by those from ethnic minority, excluding white minority groups, particularly London's black communities. While more likely to be stopped and searched by police on suspicion of cannabis possession than white people, black Londoners are no more likely to be found carrying the drug, they say. So basically it creates an issue there. Discuss.
I mean, where do you start with this? I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever heard, and quite pleased to see that the Home Office come out yesterday saying they had absolutely no intention of reclassifying cannabis. Good. That puts
it's a Class B drug. It used to be a Class C, but then a lot of the cannabis that comes in now is skunk. And I sound like an 80-year-old judge saying this. I do understand that. What is this Beatles you talk about? But it's much, much stronger than the stuff that perhaps people's parents were smoking in the 60s.
Well, this is it. And there's a certain amount of sort of our generation that would look at this and say this was not a very particularly hard drug, but actually what's happened to it these days is it has become stronger. It's being passed around, people are taking more of it, and there are more people taking it, so therefore it is becoming a vastly bigger problem. But yeah, it was downgraded from Class B to Class C in 2001 by Tony Blair's government.
How's that worked out?
Yeah,
well, I mean, the thing is that most people think
reversed.
it has been decriminalised. My main issue with cannabis is it makes people incredibly boring. People are so boring once they're smoking cannabis. I just think we've got enough drugs already. It seems to me it's a slippery slope where once you criminalise cannabis, you then move to the next one. But people say, well, it's already decriminalised. Well, yes, if you don't enforce the law. I mean, people say, well, the war on drugs hasn't worked. I'm not with Peter Hitchens on a lot of major issues, other than drugs and British summertime. He's opposed to both, and so am I. I'd be on British Summertime all the time. But genuinely, it is. We've never actually had a proper war on drugs. The main issue here is the middle classes. They're not concerned about young black men being stopped and searched for drugs. What they're concerned is that Jemima and Sebastian could possibly get a criminal record, and it will stop them in their wonderful careers because they smoked some dope. That's what they're concerned about. It's a middle class, lefty sort of concern. I would tell my kids, don't do drugs because it's illegal. Yeah. One of the main reasons people cite for not using cannabis is that it is illegal, and they don't want a criminal record. So isn't it a good idea if that stops more people using it? Well, it's not a good thing. I mean, people say it's less likely to cause trouble. You're not going to get violent in the way people do with alcohol. What was the argument in the Home Office about that?
The Home Office took the view that it would deal with the law as it was given to them, but reclassifying what is a drug down to something akin to drinking a soda, they weren't going to do.
Vaping.
Yeah, they weren't going to do that because it is a drug. And then you'll get the argument, once you've done that with cannabis, what is next? Are you going to start looking at cocaine? Are you going to start looking at spice?
And that's what
whatever it is.
That's what a lot of the druggies want, let's be honest. People, it's a libertarian view that if it's someone's own body. And the thing is, fine, if some silly rich aristocrat wants to ruin their life with drugs, I just don't care. I've got no sympathy. But the thing is, these drugs are pushed on 12-year-olds living on housing estates whose lives are then ruined. And I think a lot of people, there's a middle class media world attitude to drugs, which is very sort of, everyone's doing cocaine at the Brits, isn't it funny? And it's all, I perform so much better in my city job and things on this drug or that drug, and I need this drug to relax. And they're very casual about it. Yeah. And actually, it's not a casual experience for millions of people whose lives are ruined by it, and the impact on their mental health as well.
And it's enormous when you start looking at the county lines drugs gangs, and they get kids who are 12, 13 years old running around with bicycles delivering stuff.
I know the kids around my way who are delivering drugs.
You just know, don't you?
You just know straight away.
You can see them.
It's 35 degrees. You got your hoodie up. Yes. That's always a bit of a clue.
Your face
Why
covered.
are the police searching you for drugs? It's a mystery to me. It really is. Yeah. Look, just one final topic I want to get to just before we go to a break, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Are we just being, silly middle-class women having a conversation, being totally out of touch, and you do drugs, you do absolutely fine, and actually it's a simple matter, frankly. If someone wants to put something in their own body, it's no one else's damn business. If you want to make that argument, get in touch, 0344 499 1000, if you've seen the damage that drugs can do in local communities, and the criminal aspect to it. You say, you're going to decriminalise it for possession, but you're still encouraging the criminals to produce it. I mean, that's the absurdity, isn't it? If it's going to be decriminalised, then if you're going to decriminalise it, make it completely legal and tax the darn thing, and let's get some money off it, surely. Get in touch. I want to hear your thoughts. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. But I also just want to talk about Dominic Cummings. You wouldn't be surprised if Dominic Cummings did appear to be on drugs. Not saying he is on some occasions, some of the things that he said and done. He's done an interview with Sky News. He's a posh boy. He didn't bother tidying up the kitchen before he had the interview in. It just bothered me that. Yeah. Posh people. He's proper posh. Posh people don't clean or tidy up. It's an affectation of being very posh. You will know, seriously, don't ever eat dinner in their homes. They're not clean people. I'm just telling you. Anyway, it's an aside. It's a personal thing. He says that Nigel Farage could definitely become Prime Minister. He has said that he has actually been advising him about how to go from being one man and an iPhone to being a government in waiting, and saying, here's my shadow cabinet, here I am ready to go into office, and how to deal with the civil service, how to get the stuff done you want done. This is from a man who didn't get anything done and got himself sacked. Is he the best person to advise?
No. I mean, who died and made him the head of politics in the country?
I mean, he delivered vote leave.
He did. That was the one and only thing that I've ever agreed with him on. And you look at him, he looks awful.
That's not an issue.
Well, no,
cleanliness in your kitchen
Thank
is for
you.
me. But yeah.
And he just looks generally scruffy, but he didn't get anything done. He just wants another person that he can control. He started to control Boris Johnson until the days when he couldn't.
And
then it went wrong. Yeah. And he's looking now at Nigel Farage going, if I can get him in there into number 10, then I can break down Whitehall and do all the things I really wanted to do. It's not about the country. It's not about politics. It's not about the individual. It is about Dominic Cummings.
Ouch. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. How does Nigel Farage get into office? Go from being a one man and an iPhone